gonna do it. Black boy, tell me how you really feel. I just wanna build with you. Black girl, tell me how you really feel. I just wanna keep it real with you. I wanna live better, eat better. I wanna love better, sleep better. I wanna feel so aligned, sublime. One time for the state of mind, 2 times for elevated rhymes. Know I architected when I lay design. I drown noise out of the clear blue. I sit, twist the threads of said silence. That's an heirloom. I am the shepherd, I shear sheep. Still fleece funds from the have-it-alls to the matadors who sidestep the bull beautifully to that applause. Around rappers, a higher caliber catalog shines, reminds I ain't coming to flatter y'all. I spark chatter, dark matter, the sharks scatter on these dark waters. Who walk taller, who barks orders? God body, guarding what all the laws taught us. Not a peer, it's rear, they veer near. I pierce deep, I'm revered, my steps remain clear with fierce sweeps. Not a man here who could censor me. I'm on the pier, Elohim with the energy. Black boy, tell me how you really feel. I just wanna build with you. Black girl, tell me how you really feel. I just wanna keep it real with you. I wanna live better, eat better. Yeah. I wanna love better, sleep better. Yeah, I wanna feel so aligned. Let me talk to y'all over here. Sublime. 1 time for elevated rhymes, 2 times for showmanship, 3 times for black hands and land ownership. Revolution I bring to you, wedding ring bling to you. Nisi blues on war tunes to sing to you. I am a rebel without a pause, no applause. Trust me, I must be Chuck D getting mine off. Many fools been clock watching my moves and I needed a reappraisal of flavor. I took the time off. Now, back Jesus, black feet is slumbering unborn. Ark of the covenant curtain untorn. I'm a rose that rose to etch prose in Rosetta Stone. Yelling it through a megaphone, always rapping, baby, forever home. I ain't the pot calling the kettle black. I'm the flame keeping the kettle warm, and I am to blame for the renaissance. It's cold, had to write and recite it with down feathers on. Black boy, tell me how you really feel, cause I just wanna build with you. Black girl, tell me how you really feel. I just wanna keep it real with you. Yeah, I wanna live better, eat better. I wanna love better, sleep better. Yeah, I wanna feel so aligned, sublime. Sublime. I wanna live better, eat better. Sublime. 1 time for elevated rhymes, 2 times for showmanship, 3 times for black hands and land ownership. Revolution I bring to you, where the ring bling to you. Nisi blues on war tunes, singing to you. I am the rebel without a pause, no applause. Trust me, I am Chuck D, getting mine off. Many fools, they clock watching my moves, and I needed a reappraisal of flavor. Took some time off now. Back Jesus, black feet is slumbering unborn. Ark of the covenant curtain untorn. I'm the rose that rose to etch his prose in Rosetta Stone. Still yelling it through a megaphone. Always repping, baby, forever home. I ain't the pot calling the kettle black. I am the flame keeping the kettle warm. I'm to blame for the renaissance that's cold. I write and recite it with down feathers on. I love you and write and recite it with down feathers on. That mean that shit cold. And I'm the coldest. Listen, this the message right here. Black boy, tell me how you really feel, cause I just wanna build with you. Black girl, tell me how you really feel. I wanna keep it real with you. I wanna live better, eat better. I wanna love better, sleep better. Yeah, I wanna feel so aligned, sublime. Y'all give a round of applause to this band right now. When they tell me they want to feel the chords a little more, then we got to do that shit again. That wasn't in the rehearsal. We didn't do that. That was not a part of the set list. Roderick was just in my ear like, yo, let's do it again. So we're going to do it again. So we did it again. This next record, we're going to get into it since we're having a message to my black boys. Tell me how y'all really feel. I know y'all going through it. We going through it. Black women, tell me how you really feel. I know y'all going through it. Y'all been going through it.
What's up, family? So it says we have, I can't even see. It says we have 24 people in the stream. If you are a member, please put a thumbs up in the chat just so I can see you, know that you're here, know that you can hear me. In a second, I'll add the Instagram. I'm trying to vertical stream just to see how that goes. Y'all know I've kind of toned it down with the streaming. Primarily because I got a lot going on. Secondarily, I want to reemphasize quality over quantity. So yeah, Paul, I see you. Long time no see, man. Hope you've been well. We've got a lot to cover this evening, and then I got to take my ass to the gym. But before I do that, I guess before we get started, as you can see, the chat is members only. And at the top of the chat, you'll also see a link to call in, an anonymous call in. The last segment I want to do for this stream is a anonymous call in. And since you guys are here early, I'm kind of going to give you the prompt. But what was the moment, or what was the story of the moment when you realized that women were not what you thought they were, right? Whatever that means to you. And again, it's going to be an anonymous call in. So if you click that link, the only person who'll be able to see you in the back is me. Cam off. It'll just be audio, and it won't even pull up your avatar. It'll just be audio in the background as if we were on a phone call. So if you have a compelling story, an interesting story, a story that might be helpful to young brothers who are still gaining an understanding of the world and women in particular, please call in. We would love to hear your story. As you can see in the thumbnail in the title, today we're talking about the guy from Equatorial Guinea. I'm not even going to try to say his name. I might butcher it. But yeah, we have a lot to cover. Ever since this story dropped, I've been fascinated by it. So yeah, if you plan on calling in, please start thinking of your stories. Sports Droppings, I see you. Elias, I see you. Hope you guys are well. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and add the Instagram, and yeah, let's roll. Boom, boom, boom. All right. All right. All right. I think the Instagram, yep, the Instagram is connected. What's up, family? If you are joining us from Instagram, my name is Alan. This is We Need to Talk. And earlier today, I advertised that we would be going live. I think I also advertised yesterday to discuss the Equatorial Guinea controversy, right? So, the way that we're going to structure this show, obviously, I got some notes I want to get through, and then we're going to end it with a call-in section, an anonymous call-in section. If you have an interesting story about how you, I guess, how the world or how an experience red pilled you, please call in. We'd love to hear your story. And all that means is, when was the thing that happened in your life, the thing that you observed that led you to realize that women are just people? They're not sugar and spice and everything nice. They're not virginal and all the other, I would say, unfair expectations that we have of women, that I think is the main reason why so many people are outraged by this Equatorial Guinea situation. So if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, the man's name is Baltasar Ebang Engonga. Now he was a politician in Equatorial Guinea. He was running the finance corruption agency, something along those lines, and he was being investigated for fraud, for corruption. And during that investigation, they found uh, sex tapes. They found 400 plus sex tapes in his laptop. So that headline by itself is a lot. But in addition to that, uh, they found out that the women in these sex tapes were not just regular women, but wives of very prominent men in the Equatorial Guinea political structure. So some lists have been floating around, but the list that I found of the people that were also in this sex tape, or in these 400 sex tapes, with the brother, the wife of the director of presidential security, the attorney general's wife, the daughter of the Attorney General of Police, the wife of his pastor's little brother, his godfather's wife, his sentry's wife. I don't know what that means, but somebody's wife, his bodyguard's wife, 15 friends of his younger sister, his pastor's wife, the wives of several ministers, including Minister Uburu. I'm assuming that's like a prominent minister in Equatorial Guinea. His own little brother's wife, and his uncle's pregnant wife. And the list goes on and on. So basically, not only was this brother caught with 400 sex tapes, but in these sex tapes, these were people's wives. And for me and for everybody on the internet, the question has been, how did he do this? How did he make this happen? Like, it's one thing to have Riz, but like this is next level. Because the other thing about it too is the women in these sex tapes, these are not prostitutes. At least all of them were, and I don't know about the rest. These aren't women who are hurting for money, whatever the case may be. And, you know, based on what I've heard and what I've seen, they were consenting as well. So it begs a lot of questions. And that's kind of what I want to cover tonight. So, you know, I had to go down a little rabbit hole about Equatorial Guinea because I was like, first of all, is it a cultural thing that we might not be aware of? Are they like more sex positive than Western or other African cultures? You know, I'm Nigerian, so in Nigeria, stuff like this happens, but it gets buried under the rug, right? So one of the things I found out, Equatorial Guinea is the only Spanish-speaking African country, which blew my mind. I didn't know that. A lot of people don't realize, but Africa is huge. Africa is diverse. And just because you're African, just because you're from the continent, doesn't necessarily mean you know about every single country. And Equatorial Guinea is relatively small, right? So not only is it a Spanish-speaking country, I think according to some statistics, about 30% of women get married under the age of 18. Right. So they have a relatively prevalent child bride problem. And, you know, I think this probably has something to do with what we're seeing. Politically, a couple of years ago, the VP of Equatorial Guinea, he was in the news. He was, you know, on some YouTube documentaries because his lifestyle was really extravagant. Right. He was one of the poster boys for excess, right? He was driving this, living in this, flying here, vacationing here, simultaneously while his country is living in poverty. So there is that inequity that we talk about in poverty-stricken countries. But the biggest shocker, which led me further down the rabbit hole of, you know, what's going on is, you know, initially when this news dropped and these 400 tapes were exposed, people were also talking about how he's got, I think, 6 or 7 kids. How is his wife going to take it? There was a rumor that came out that she fainted. She passed out. She went to the hospital. Last week, her tape dropped. And not only did her tape drop, he wasn't the guy in her tape. So, like I said, which begs the further question: do we have an incorrect understanding of women? What the hell is going on in Equatorial Guinea? So many questions that I want to kind of cover. But before that, I found a quick video. It's a brother. He's wearing a mask, but he said that Igbo people, which are my people, the southeastern part of Nigeria, mostly Igbo people, we know a thing or two about Equatorial Guinea. I wasn't aware of the things that he's talking about, and I'll translate because his accent is kind of heavy and he uses pidgin English. But it's an interesting place for us to start. with this conversation. So let me go ahead and play that.
I want to tell you a little thing about Equatorial Guinea when I don't know. You see that country, this thing where they happen now, I feel they new to everybody. But you see Igbo people, that country no they new to Igbo people. Now Igbo people fit tell you about that country. Now Igbo people give a name Panya. If your uncle go there, now juju way go use carry and come back. Your uncle go lost for that place. Now for Equatorial Guinea, where be say a woman go lash your uncle, lash your brother, lash your friend, lash your this thing. Where you catch and him go to tell you say, only you if you finish this toto. Only you if you finish this toto. This toto if he give you, go fit finish am. Then they boast with am. If your uncle go there and a nylon bag, we ain't go use come back. Igbo people give am panya. When we were still growing up, any family where their uncle go there, now juju, where then they use go carry and come back. You know the fee come back. Then they go juju, they carry juju, carry and come back. Equatorial Guinea, go ask Igbo people about the country. All these things where they shout, Igbo people just they look like this because they know the country. Now they give them panya, panya and Gomorrah of Africa. Now in the Equatorial Guinea. I want to tell you.
So for those of you guys who might not be initiated, like I said, I'm Nigerian, so I understand exactly what he's saying. But to explain it a little bit further, basically what he said was Igbo people gave Equatorial Guinea the nickname Panya. And the thing is, I've heard the name Panya before, but I didn't know that it referred to Equatorial Guinea because, like I said, I wasn't super familiar with the country. But basically, what he was saying was Panya, aka Equatorial Guinea, is the Sodom and Gomorrah of Africa. And it's so bad or good, depending on your perspective, that if your uncle was to go there, it would take juju, black magic, voodoo, whatever you guys like to call it, to bring him back. And the women of Equatorial Guinea don't feel like one man is enough to satisfy them. Right. So at a certain point, he was saying she'll lash your brother, your cousin, your uncle, your nephew, whatever. Lash was a euphemism for, coitus. Let me use a politically correct term. But yeah, so apparently, and if anybody is watching either on Instagram or on YouTube that is from Equatorial Guinea, has been to Equatorial Guinea, knows somebody from Equatorial Guinea, please, I welcome you to comment, call in, shoot. I want some insight, and I think the audience would be better for it as well. Also, if you're watching from Instagram, please consider clicking the link in the bio and navigating to the YouTube, watching it on YouTube. It's a much better experience. I did it vertically today just to see how it would look. But yeah, if you want to engage, if you want to call in, if you want to follow the chat, YouTube is where you can do that. But yeah, so moving forward, I had several conversations with some women that I know to try to gain an understanding of how this was possible. Because at first I was like, okay, the dude, let's say he's super handsome. That wasn't the case. Let's say, and even if that was the case, like, handsome is not enough to get that many taken women and also get them on camera. Like, there's a lot of unlikely things happening simultaneously. And I bet other men don't think that there's any amount of looks, money, good dick that could execute this. right? So I was curious about the culture, and then I became curious about female nature. I was asking women. I was like, yo, like what would make this possible, right? And I got several answers. Maybe there was some blackmail involved. Maybe they were all part of some kind of sex cult. Maybe I don't know. There are multiple things going on. But when his wife's tape came out, and like I said earlier, if you guys are just joining, his wife, her tape was also leaked, and he wasn't the man in the tape, right? So this is not just one dude. This is a culture, whether whether culture like lowercase or culture uppercase, there's something happening that's bigger. And come to find out, even one of the women in the tapes is a known lesbian who has, sex parties and things all over the place. So it also raises the question about the lifestyle of the rich and famous, how they live in a different world. They operate by different rules. But nonetheless, it's been interesting. But I thought about this quote that I heard actually on Instagram. A young lady, she said, men are very unattractive until you get to know them. And she said she was heterosexual, so it wasn't no like gay stuff going on. She said men are very unattractive until you get to know them. She said conversely, women are very attractive until you get to know them. And I was thinking a lot about how a lot of us as men, and especially, in this dialogue around the gender war, the black gender war, men ain't shit, women ain't shit. A lot of us as men were raised and socialized to have very unrealistic expectations of women. And more so than the thing that happens in our life that changes that for us, it tends to be the shock of what that expectation was and the realization that it was nothing like that, right? Like I say all the time, women are people in the best and worst ways possible. And I think that's why things like this that come to the light are so shocking because, the tapes were of one man and several women, right? So with us as men having this Puritan, having this idealistic, angelic, innocent expectation of women, it tends to be a very tough pill to swallow. And like I said, later on in the stream, if any brothers want to call in and share anonymously as well and share that moment of realization for you, what is it that happened? What is it that you witnessed, you experienced, you saw, you heard about that really shattered that fantasy? Because although I think that shattering is a traumatic thing, I know it is for men. I think a lot of brothers would agree that you don't enter manhood until that happens, right? Whether literally something happens to you, she broke your heart, she cheated on you with your homeboy, whatever the case may be, or you observe something. Because a lot of dudes too, it's not necessarily like they got done dirty, but sometimes they were part of the dirt being done, and they were like, damn, she grimy. How she doing, buddy? But you're a participant, and because of that, it creates trust issues in you. But yeah, so like I said, it got me thinking about this Puritan culture. Like oftentimes in this male-female dynamic conversation, we talk about how women lack accountability. I think we don't talk enough about how the world, including us as men, participate in that lack of accountability. We infantilize women to a certain degree, right? Whether in our personal lives or whether in our conception of who and what women are, right? And we expect them to be virginal. We expect them to be good first before anything else. And conversely, we tend to expect the worst from men. So men are guilty until proven innocent. Women tend to be innocent until proven guilty, and that's, in my opinion, a part of this conversation that hasn't been had yet. Right? We can't genuinely solve this, attack this, approach this if one side views itself as benevolent while the other side is just trying to get his point across. Right? So I think that's work that needs to be done on both sides. Because, like I said, women also think of themselves to a degree as benevolent relative to men, right? Women also think of themselves as good people relative to men, and I think that's part of that gap in accountability. Because oftentimes, what she's avoiding isn't necessarily the accountability, but it's the admission that she's not a good person because she did this thing, or she was part of this thing that wasn't good, right? And, me as a communicator, it's one of the things that I've tried my best to try to dismantle in my personal life and communication, to get to the truth, to get to the substance. One of my mentors, he said something I thought was wise. He said, um, men's biggest insecurity is impotence. And I'm paraphrasing. Men are afraid of being weak, looking weak, seeming weak, literally being weak. Conversely, women are afraid of being disgraced, being humiliated. Women are afraid of shame, right? And oftentimes, I think that's why women lie so much in a way that isn't considered a lie to them. I was watching the Martha Stewart documentary, and it sounds wild, but like, y'all need to watch it. It's interesting. But it's a certain part of the documentary. She was talking about how her ex-husband was cheating on her with all kinds of women, and she looked dead in the camera. And she was like, "Ladies, if he's cheating, there's nothing wrong with you. He's a piece of shit, and you need to leave. But I just couldn't." And if it was just cut there, oh my God, Martha, you brave, powerful, strong woman. How dare he, et cetera, et cetera. But shout out to the director, whoever was interviewing Martha Stewart. He said, "Didn't you cheat first?" And in that moment, she said, "Yeah, but he didn't know about it." As if that absolved her of the same type of verbal and moral lashing that she tried to dish out to him. The interviewer said, "Yeah, no, he did know about it, and he actually said that he started cheating because he found out that you had stepped out on your marriage." Like I've said in other clips and other videos, men's stories are often not told. So the overwhelming narrative is that of women being the victim, women being abused, women being neglected, et cetera, et cetera. And you combine that with the fact that, again, we don't really see men as people. And in a different way, we don't see women as people. We see men as human doings, right? And men are only as good as how they serve a woman, how they serve their community, how they serve their country, etc. And women, on the other hand, are these benevolent, maternal, motherly, saintly beings, right? Like we joke sometimes, grandpa busted his ass for 40 years at the factory, only for us to call his house grandma's house, right? So we have to talk about this ingrained inequity in the way that we deify women and how we vilify men, right? But I say all that to say, I think part of the reason why it seems like we're at this standstill in intergender discourse is the fact that there isn't that human deference given. And I think both sides are guilty, right? Men don't think women are people. We think they're saints. We think they're children. best case scenario. And women don't think men are people. Women think men are scumbags. Women think men are shit, just like Martha Stewart talking about her husband. He's the shitty one, without acknowledging, until the interviewer did, that she was the genesis of their dysfunction. One of the things that kind of led me down this, obviously the work that I do, but led me down the path of, damn, what is it to female pathology? Like there's something, from a male perspective, with all due respect, there's something off, but it's an interesting, like, okay, what does this mean? How do we navigate it as men? But I was watching a documentary, also on Netflix. It was a documentary about sex, and I think this particular documentary was about the female orgasm. And one of the things that came up, obviously, I think, a certain amount of women have never had an orgasm. A certain amount of women don't have orgasms vaginally, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the things that came up is a high percentage. I want to say it was like 62%. It was over 50. They said that a high percentage of women have fantasized, or even regularly fantasize, about forced sex. And the male mind immediately goes to, they're talking about assault. They're talking about, like, women want to be assault. So, I had to have conversations with women and get some kind of understanding. Okay, what is this a thing? What's going on? Let me understand, because if we just put that as a headline, that's going to be dangerous as hell. So let's unpack that. Let's understand the nuance. But a lot of how women are socialized has a lot to do. Again, this is my opinion, but it has a lot to do with power dynamics. I heard a saying that everything in life is about sex except sex. Sex is about power, or the relinquishing of power, surrender, etc. But women in our community, in particular, are raised by media, right? And when we look at media depictions of love, romance, etc., sometimes it depicts forced sex. But the nuance is, it depicts it from the perspective of, this is a man that I want to give it to, as opposed to, this is just some random dude. This is somebody I'm attracted to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But like I said, oftentimes those nuances aren't really discussed. So we're just left to hold, what the hell does this mean? And there are many examples of things that women think, women want, women feel, that don't make any goddamn sense, if I'm being honest, until you start trying to understand it. And then you could kind of, okay, I see how, you know what I'm saying, this could make some sense. I would appeal to the female delegation to help us out. Help us better understand these things. And I know full and well, like, some of these things women themselves don't even understand. That's what makes it even trickier. But please, please help us. I saw a video the other day. It was this lady. She was talking about, how can men better understand women and better navigate women, etc. And she said, women say what they feel, not what they mean. Whereas men typically say what they mean and not what they feel. That was an interesting phrase, but I want to play another clip, and then we'll talk a little bit more, and then we'll get some of those call-ins. Again, if you're watching on Instagram, click the link in the bio. Navigate to our YouTube. You'll see a link at the top of the chat. Shout out to everybody in the chat. And you'll be able to call in anonymously, share your story, and join the conversation. Before I pull up that video, let me see. who is in the building. Dub Will, what's up, brother? Appreciate the love, man. Let me see. Yeah, 400 wives. So I was being kind of hyperbolic. There were 400 tapes. It wasn't 400 women. It's 400 tapes. I think the number of women is like in the 30s, 40s, something like that. But it was 400 tapes. So I'm assuming it's multiple tapes of the same woman. Let's see. Noah said, I had a conversation with a woman I was interested in about that. Black men always have to prove themselves to a lot of black women when it's not the case with other races. That is absolutely worth a conversation. I think it's a conversation we've been having. But yeah, I think that's absolutely interesting. All right, let me see if there are any comments on the Instagram. Yeah, streaming on Instagram is new for me, but it's kind of cool. All right. Go to the top. Let me start from here. It's too much. Vint, he said he's saying women are promiscuous in Equatorial Guinea. Yeah, I'm assuming you're talking about the video we played earlier. He said, I don't know anything about it being true in connection to Igbo people. Apparently he was saying, because Igbo people, we tend to be very well traveled, at least relative to other Nigerians, other Africans. We like, there's a joke, there's nowhere in the world where you won't find an Igbo man. Alaska and Antarctica, like we japa, that's a Nigerian term, more or better than most Africans. Will one of one, he says, I guess I just don't understand why we need to talk about this particular thing. I thought it was interesting, man, and I thought there were several themes that we've touched on before in other videos and other live streams that I think this event, emphasized. All right, Lion the Beast. Bro, the way we have to be masculine 24/7. Okay, but women can choose when to be feminine. All right, Will one of one. He says, brother, you are in no way qualified to speak to your audience about what women do, and even less qualified to speak to the reasons they do what they do. Will, you must be new here, brother. I would encourage you to do some due diligence before questioning my credentials. I definitely think women are people. All right, let me pull up the next video. And what I mean by that, go to the YouTube, look around. This isn't my first or second or third rodeo. I've been here for a while. It's not a mistake that I've got 124,000 followers on Instagram or 80-something thousand on YouTube. There's a reason for that, so I would encourage you to go find out. All right, let me share this. Boom. All right, let me refresh this so it starts.
You squat like you've never done before. Those were not the words from my husband, no. Those were words from a fellow woman like me who has had 4 children, like I have, and she's from my church. Back then, 3 years ago or so, was when she sent me this message on WhatsApp. I can't remember the details of the discussion. When she chipped that in, I got confused, but let me not bore you with the details.
Now, let's listen.
I'm saying that to say this. Husbands, yes, the men will come for your wives, but trust me, the women will come even more.
It's just how life is.
The devil is working overtime with this daughters of Jezebel to fill in the vacuums you guys have created in the lives of these women.
How, Chim?
The lonely women, unsatisfied wives, the women who want more. I don't know how to describe them, but the ladies are actually working overtime, doing all they can to please your women. And these ladies, most of them are in church. So, husbands, watch and pray. Wives, be careful. These are things nobody will really tell you, but I'll tell you anyway. Join my group, The Prepared Bride, so you can get tips and tricks on how you can.
So, to my earlier point, yeah, shit be happening, shit be going down, and there are no simple, easy answers. There are no cure-alls. One of the things that I have, I guess, battled with the manosphere about, or maybe not even the manosphere, just older brothers, is this idea that there's an aesthetic to a good woman, or there are locations where you can find a good woman, or that we need to reinvent, repurpose the 1950s, 1960s dynamic because it was effective. And I've been kind of pushing back, saying that, the difference now isn't necessarily that women are doing more or different than they have done before, from the perspective of being grimy or shady or shisty or whatever. It's just that they're more bombastic about it. They're more unashamed, right? And which provides us as men the opportunity to actually like dialogue with it and actually not just prepare ourselves, but better assess and better qualify the woman that we choose to take long term or to take seriously. Because grandpa was getting done dirty too. It's just that social media wasn't around. So he could forgive her and it might seem like nothing happened, right? DNA tests weren't as prevalent, right? But I often push back against the notion that women today are just worse. I don't think that's the case, right? If you talk to enough people, matter of fact, there's a YouTuber that I came across a while back, and I was kind of like addicted to his stories. What was his name? Man, I'm blanking on his name, but anyway, he had a series where he talked about why he stopped dating church girls. And long story short, he basically said all the church girls he dated, there was something off about them. They were either sex crazed, they were either psycho, bipolar, whatever the case may be. But oftentimes, this isn't discussed, right? I heard this dude. He said a hoe's final form is a church girl. A hoe's final form is a church girl. I'd probably add to it and say, it usually goes gym rat and then church girl. Those who know might know. But again, I think that the disservice society does to boys and society, including older men, is we aren't really getting into the weeds and talking about the nuances of how young men can better navigate not just their lives but their relationships with women. How can they vet women better, etc. Which actually inspired the Yellow Flag series on YouTube. I created a series detailing different, in my opinion, telltale signs that a woman might not be the one for you, right? And most of what I talked about was like things that you can see visually, right? Like her hair, her makeup, her clothing, her social media, etc. But like we talk about often, women are taught what to expect from men, but not taught what men should expect from them, and vice versa. Men are taught what to be for women, but not what to expect from women, right? So if we're ever going to if we're ever going to find some equity in this conversation, there has to be like due diligence and understanding on both sides. But to her point in the video, everything ain't what it seems. Like going back to the Ebang videos, a lot of those women from the surface before they got undressed, a lot of those women were uh, modest seeming. I know that's a fashion style right now where women dress modestly, but skirts down to their ankles, not too much cleavage, etc. But they get down, right? So I think it's important as men, we start getting more into the nuances of, okay, you really can't judge a book, especially a female book, by its cover. What is it that you can start looking for? What are the things that you can start making decisions based on, which is why I created that series. So if you haven't seen it, go to YouTube, go to the playlist tab. It's called Yellow Flags. You'll see a big yellow flag series. Go check that out. All right, so last video, and then we'll do a quick call in, and then I got to take my black ass to the gym. All right. This one's actually really interesting, at least to me.
Person that you're in a relationship with because you have even know the person that you're in a relationship with because you have never given them a safe space to be themselves. Let me cook for a second. A lot of y'all are in relationships with people and you don't even know who they are truly because you have never given them a safe space to be themselves. Let me go a little bit further. The woman that you're with, there's a man out here right now that fulfilled all of her sexual desires. You don't even know she liked to be choked. You don't even know she liked to have her hair pulled. You don't even know that she liked to have one foot on the back of her neck while she getting pile drived on because you've never made her feel comfortable to show you the real her. You don't even know the fact that she liked to get her mouth spitting while she being choked. Well, what? Never mind. Listen, what I'm trying to tell you is this. You don't know your partner because you've never given them a safe space. There's somebody out here that knows your partner better than you. Your girl is cool with bringing other girls into the relationship, but because she knows you can't handle it, she won't let it happen. Your girl's cool with all of the shit that you want to do, but you don't know how to go about it because after she opens up to you, you'll judge her and make her feel uncomfortable, weird, and awkward about it. That's why the guys that made your chick feel comfortable know her in ways you never will. Oh, she not freaky? No, she's not freaky with you. Oh, she's not submissive? No, she's not submissive to you. Am I lying? You don't even know the person that you're in a relationship with because you have never given them a safe space to be themselves. Let me cook for a second. A lot of y'all are in relationships with people and you don't even know who they are truly because you have never given them a safe space to be themselves. Let me go a little bit further. The woman that you're with, there's a man out here right now that fulfilled all of her sexual desires. You don't even know she liked to be choked. You don't even know she liked to have her hair pulled. You don't even know that she liked to have one foot on the back of her neck while she getting pile drived on because you've never made her feel comfortable to show you the real her. You don't even know the fact that she liked to get her mouth spitting while she being choked. Well, what? Never mind. Listen, what I'm trying to tell you is this. You don't know your partner because you've never given them a safe space. There's somebody out here that knows your partner better than you. Your girl is cool with bringing other girls into the relationship, but because she knows you can't handle it, she won't let it happen. Your girl's cool with all of the shit that you want to do, but you don't know how to go about it because after she opens up to you, you'll judge her and make her feel uncomfortable, weird, and awkward about it. That's why the guys that made your chick feel comfortable know her in ways you never will. Oh, she not freaky? No, she's not freaky with you. Oh, she's not submissive? No, she's not submissive to you. Am I lying? You don't even.
So shout out to this brother. I think he made some PowerPoints. And I think it's worth a conversation. One of the comments that I loved getting when I was super active on YouTube was either a comment from a man or a woman, but it would go something like, you know, I love this video so much. I'm about to send it to my girlfriend, my boyfriend, my wife, my husband, and tonight we're going to have a conversation about it. I think that is one of these, that is worthy of that as well. I think that is absolutely worth a conversation with the men, the women in your life, in your lives. And I have two minds about what he said. So please, you know, in his words, allow me to cook for a minute. Number one, he's absolutely right. Chances are, unfortunately, and I know it's a tough pill to swallow for us men, it's a hit to that ego, it's a hit to that pride, but there is a man somewhere who, quote unquote, knows your woman better than you do. Whether because of who she was, yeah, it is hard to watch, brother. Whether who she was when they knew each other compared to who she is now, to the point earlier, maybe now she's a church girl, but back in the day, she hadn't reached that level of hoe yet. But yeah, it's a hard pill to swallow, and the reality is, like I said earlier, because women struggle with shame relative to men struggling with power, the thing that I believe most women crave more than anything is the opportunity, the ability to be unashamed and unabashedly themselves and not be judged for it, not be scrutinized for it, etc. I always talk about the LMA song "Love Me Naked," right? Like most women prefer a situation where, you know, the man that she falls in love with met her when she was plain, right? Not all dolled up, because then it's like, is he in love with me for real, or is he in love with my representative? At least self-aware women, right? And similarly, I think when it comes to like sexual fantasy, kind of like we talked about earlier with um, forced sex, if that's one of her kinks, or choking, or like he said, spitting in the mouth, or the leg here, there, whatever, a space where she can reveal those things without feeling judged. And I think that's fair. I think the unfortunate reality is like the cost of vulnerability is potential judgment. The cost of, and this is the same for dudes, right? Like women tell dudes all the time, just tell me the truth, be honest. And oftentimes the reason men don't tell the truth or aren't honest is because we're afraid of the consequences. Maybe she hears that honesty and she no longer likes me, right? And to most women, that's fair, right? Give me the opportunity to see who you are and have the agency to decide if this is something I want to be a part of. Similarly, um, I think it's important that men be given that opportunity as well. Um, while also understanding that, you know, you might say some shit that just comes out of left field for him, but he reserves the right to be like, yeah, I'm never going to be able to fulfill that for you. Maybe there's another man out there who will, right? But oftentimes, again, because women are socialized to think of themselves a certain way, and shame is such a um, lingering threat, most of those things get suppressed. Most of those things get, uh, minimized until, you know, down the line into a marriage, or, you know, when the right guy comes along and brings all that out of her. So that's one side of my thinking. The other side of my thinking, and this also relates to the Equatorial Guinea situation, but the reality is most people will better care for a thing that they love or that they own, I'm sorry, better than they would something that they were renting, right? Like, it's everything that he said it is very easy to execute that as a man for a woman that you don't give a shit about, or a woman who you might like her, but it's not that deep. It might be a bit more difficult. And men, please feel free to disagree with me. Alan, you full of shit, whatever the case may be. But it might be a little bit more difficult, morally, ethically, whatever the case may be, to call the mother of your children, the love of your life, a dirty hoe, or spit in her mouth, or put your leg on her face and all that extra stuff. It might be just a little bit more difficult. Similarly, you could probably floor it in a rental car. You're going to run that shit ragged. But for your car, the car that you own, the car that you have to pay for maintenance, the car that you have to, whether you're doing the oil change yourself, whether you go get it done, the car that you have to buff and you have to wash with your own hands, it might be a bit more difficult to be reckless, to be bombastic in your treatment of that car. So that's the other piece of there's an Ebang somewhere who knows your girl better than you. And kind of like I said in the beginning, it might be just a tough pill that men have to swallow. And I think it's something that women might not consider. Because, women want us as men to be all things at all times. But oftentimes these things lie in direct opposition to one another, right? Like I said, if I could probably say this from experience, I've probably given better sex to women I didn't give a shit about, from the standard of theatrics, opulent pageantry, all that good stuff. I've probably been better for them because with a girl that I care about, there are a lot more considerations that go into it. And those considerations sometimes might stifle or police the experience, right? Particularly when you also consider like longevity, time, whatever the case may be. It's easier for a quick fling to be crazy and spontaneous versus somebody you got to see tomorrow. So to go back on one side, I think men can do a better job at giving women that space. And I even give this as advice to some of my younger brothers, but like, yo, create an environment where like she feels comfortable to just be herself. So then you can figure out if herself is what you like or you're there for another reason. Because oftentimes men, we assume that we like you, but we really just want to have sex. And we conflate those two things. We conflate our physical attraction to being attracted and liking you, right? So my advice to men is actually do your due diligence to put your lust aside and figure out if you actually like this individual. Because to my point earlier, women are very attractive until you get to know them. So you need to expedite the process of getting to know her, whether it's providing the opportunity for her to be herself, full authentic. Damn, that's crazy. That's not the kind of woman I want in my life. Like, so that's on one side. But on the other side, I think women can also be more considerate and realistic in their expectations of what we can and can't be, right? You hear often, I want a mean nigga who's nice to me. He's mean to everybody, but nice to me. I want a rich dude with a bunch of time. I want a handsome, attractive, eligible bachelor who other women want, but he doesn't want other women. Like, we have to start being realistic. We have to start being considerate, right? So how do we create an environment? How do we create a situation where the communication is authentic, like I said, but also allows nuance allows sustainability. That's probably my word for 2024, sustainability. Because you hear a lot of stuff people talk about, men and women, that they want from the opposite gender, but it's like, that's going to be cool for a couple weeks, but like, that's not going to last a lifetime. That's not going to be an idealistic personality type to help you co-raise a human being, right? But oftentimes we just focus on what we want, not what it costs, right? So yeah, my goal with all the conversations I curate is to let's dig a little deeper. Let's consider what it is that we're saying that we want, and let's hopefully get what we want in a way that's sustainable. So earlier I talked about how we as men were socialized to have a very unrealistic, very Puritan expectation of women, and how a lot of OGs make the mistake of saying women today are worse than women of old. I just think women today are more visible. Women today are more bombastic. Women today are more obvious. And then the technology as well. Paternity fraud isn't going up necessarily. It's the fact that more paternity cases, more better technology is exposing the reality that a lot of men are raising children that aren't there. So we have to have an honest conversation about female pathology. We have to have an honest conversation about the institution of marriage, long-term monogamy, etc. Because simply just tucking it under the rug and saying, we just have to do things like our grandparents did it, I think is a mistake. So yeah, I think I'm done rambling. I wanted to leave this segment, and we'll make it like a 15-minute segment. If anybody wants to call in, there's a link in the chat. It's at the top of the chat. Turn off your camera. Just turn on your microphone. And I just want to hear your story. The audience wants to hear your story about when, how you found out that women were people. And the impact that it had on you, and how learning this earlier or being advised this could have been an impactful contribution in your life. So yeah, click the link at the top of the chat, and I want to hear your story. CT, you want to be on camera, or you want to just tell your story? All right, cool. Up to you, man. All right, cool. All right, we got one brother in the back. CT, what's up, man?
How's it going? Long time,
great,
Alan.
brother. How are you, man?
I'm doing good. How's it going?
It's going, man. It's going. When I saw this story, man, I was like, yo, I gotta say something, man. I had thoughts. I think I articulated them the best way that I could, but no, that story is insane, man. Fire is insane, bro.
I think it's been on my mind for like a week.
Wow. What are your thoughts, man? What are your thoughts?
I got so many thoughts on it. But
Start from the top.
I'm just going to try to leave out the ones you talked about, because you made a lot of good points. You know what I mean? So I'm going to try to get onto the things that you might not have touched that I'm thinking outside of that, because in my opinion, you touched on a lot of the points or what I think about that. One of the things I actually wanted to point out is that I don't think people understand the level of trust all those women had in him. There's this whole idea that if they were willingly on camera, that, there might be something. No, they knew exactly what they were doing, and they trusted him enough to actually do it. And you're like, why do they trust him? And I'm like, of course they trust him. He's the guy that is supposed to fight corruption in a corrupt country. There's nobody more powerful than him, because corruption keeps going on, and he's the one that's supposed to fight it. So either he ignores it and looks the other way, or he's part of that power dynamic. So what can go wrong, even though you know that it could go wrong, but you don't care because you're next to power,
Yep.
right? So I think it's very interesting that the level of trust they all had like in him, and the other part too would be people not understanding that when you actually film that, there's a part of you, whether you know it or not, that doesn't mind it ever getting out.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes,
Man, that listen, that is a fantastic. And the other one on top of that is if let's say there are 40 women who are on those tapes, you might as well multiply that by 3.
because
There
not
were
all of them
another
accepted. Yes.
there were another 80, 60 who said, nah, this ain't my thing,
Times
or I'm too nervous, or
by
it could.
5. These are the ones that, in my opinion, and I am very careful because they probably still respect their husbands and whatever, but in the nuance of a situation like this, didn't care for it to come out.
Yeah.
So what does that tell me, in my opinion? Either they are a little bit corrupt, a little blackmail in there that would make them not want to look into it, right? Or just basically they don't think that any of them is going to do anything, right? When this gets out because of that level of trust. And it's just one of those things that you look at and it's funny to me, right? Because it seems not a lot of, I don't think people don't get it, but people don't want to come out with it.
Mm-hmm.
As you said, right? For women, it's something about shame. And I also think for men, I know we talk about strength and weakness, but if we're going to admit it as men, it's also about shame. You know, we always say this thing that, who are you that your wife cheated? Like, like, you know what I mean? There's still a high level of shame. I can guarantee you for the wives that didn't come on camera, their husbands are sitting there looking at all the other men and being like, ooh, yours actually accepted to come on camera. Those men might know, they might not know, but at the end of it, they are looking at it and maybe they had an idea that they were close to him or whatever, but they're like, at least she didn't go on camera.
Right. But it begs the question, especially when his own wife, her own tape came out. Maybe it's a cultural thing.
I think it's what they do. That's why they have 5 children together and have been there for a long time. And if you ask me to think about it, not to minimize anything, they might be going through a lot, but they might also not be. It's every single one of us that's consuming it, right? And super worried about it. But you got to ask yourself, are they genuinely worried about it?
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, even the husband, like the list that I mentioned of this person's wife, like all these men even seeing it, maybe it's not a big deal to them. Maybe it's even like I heard a rumor where some of those wives were offered as payment for one thing or the other.
I don't think it's not a big deal. When you have that number of women, there's going to be a decent amount of those men that have no idea, and they're powerful too. So some might know, those ones live in reality, but some people have gotten to high levels of power without actually sometimes knowing reality. They've just been there for what they offer. Right? So they might just be very good at what they do, right? And that's the example that I give you, turn a blind eye. So they were not actually looking and they're there doing their job. So they are not aware that things like this could actually be happening. So I think one thing I actually look at it is, it's funny because people look at this and think you're shaming him. He's even going to get more popular. He's going to get more eulogized because
the thing is, this is what's funny. So like I said, you know, I try to think as like an anthropologist. Like, so I went down the rabbit hole. I'm like, yo, what's the history of Equatorial Guinea? what's their culture? Are there women known? Because like in Nigeria, Calabar women are known for their sexual prowess. Is there something like that going on? But I started watching like tourism videos of Equatorial Guinea, and I looked at the comments, and for some people in the comments were like, "Who is here because of Baltasar?" So even the tourism board is going to benefit because Equatorial Guinea is also one of the least toured countries
in the world.
Africa.
And you know why that is? Because it's a culture there, but the Western world hates that culture. So the Western world describes them as very corrupt. That's why I'm usually careful to use the word corrupt, because if it's their culture, is it really corruption? But at the same time, if we're going to use the word corrupt, right, I'm just going to use that word, right? At the same time, in my opinion, he's inversely fighting corruption. Because what I mean by that is that there are going to be some powerful people that are actually, their eyes are going to open up and they're going to look around them, and the people that were using them, right, actually knew what was going on and is not speaking up. So, for example, if you had no idea your wife was doing that and you call a few of the other powerful people and you're like, what's going on here? We're going to punish him, or we're going to do something. And everybody just is like, no, it's for the good of the country. For example, now they've added cameras to the government offices in the country. That's going to help that country in some level of corruption.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have wanted to do that if this didn't come out. And then you now look at it again, and it's like, if you call those people, right, they're not going to help the people that didn't know anything. That's just the fact. And why should they, right? You were reaping the benefits, you were at the top, right? And you didn't know that there's something that comes with this, for example, right? In that instance. So in my opinion, as you said, they're going to take advantage. So some smart people, don't forget, people don't understand this. This was leaked by law enforcement in the country. So there's somebody in the government that's going to be, let's take advantage of it and improve tourism. Nobody knew about Equatorial Guinea. Now they're on the map. For good or for worse, for the people that think they can go there and go get easy sex, they will also go.
Right.
So that means people are coming, right? It's a very weird, but
it's a double-edged sword. Yes, it's a Faustian bargain, and that's the crazy thing about it. Like in marketing, we understand that fame and infamy are the same. Sometimes even being hated is better than being loved.
You most often in this business, right? The more hated you are, the more traffic you get. The more you're saying the things that people don't care about or they know and just want to move on, the less they speak or the less they engage.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think there's a certain level of suspicion that's pervasive in just the zeitgeist currently, and I think to kind of take a left turn, I think that's why Trump ended up in office again. I think that's why Trump won. I think people are suspicious of good people.
It's true, because I can say for me, the first time that Trump, when you said what opened your eyes, I would say that could be one of several things, right? When Trump won in 2016, in my opinion, as at where I was then in my life, I didn't think it was possible. Then I started asking myself, all these millions of people could not be bad people. 2 weeks before the election, the whole infamous tape came out. And I thought in my head, now it's not possible for the female group to vote for him. Lies. I was wrong. Sometimes you got to admit you were wrong, right? I was completely wrong about that. And it's not about any of those stuff. I'm just saying one of the points, all these things takes forever. You might never, ever figure it out, probably, right? and you gotta be fine with not knowing a lot of things. But the whole Trump thing kind of made me sit down and say, America doesn't have 60 million plus bad people. They are not as successful and things going on and all that. And you see good things everywhere, right? If 60 million people were not what you think they were, you know what I mean? So
Right.
I think it was kind of interesting, and that has kind of shifted over time. I would say it's kind of similar when you think about it. It has shifted over time now that people that didn't support him in 2016 kind of supported him this time around. Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's a continual change that we have to also understand and accept, that different times call for different decisions. And I always tell people, when you define yourself by one thing, be very careful. People would call you out for it. And the best way to get people emotional is to define yourself by one thing, right? It is the best way to get people excited and emotional. Like, you know, I'm here right now. Me and you, we can look at ourselves. We're Nigerian brothers, right? We can define ourselves that way, but you kind of know it's not just that would make me and you agree on something or disagree about something, right? But that nuance for some people is not there, right? It's like, if we share something in common, we got to agree on everything, right? If you're, for example, the elections just finished, so it's easy for me to kind of go back to it. It's like, if you're not, for some people, if you're black, you got to vote Democrat. If you're white, you got to vote conservative or whatever.
There's no two ways about it. But listen, brother, let me go ahead and round up the stream. I appreciate you calling in, man. Definitely call in next time. We'll yeah, more, brother.
No problem. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to speak here. Nice to you. Take care, man.
Yes, sir. All right, everybody. The Instagram got cut off for whatever reason. I think it cuts off after an hour. I didn't even plan on being on for an hour, but I appreciate y'all tuning in. Please consider supporting the ministry. Our Cash App is the same. It's # WNT Talk. Consider supporting. Stay tuned. I got some cool things in the works. If you haven't already, check out the Yellow Flag series. Send it to every young brother that you know. Even if you disagree with my analysis of yellow flags and women, I think it's absolutely worth a conversation, right? It's absolutely worth, okay, maybe he's off about this, but like, what can we look for? And what are some of the visual cues that we can identify whether a woman is right for us or not, right? So again, appreciate y'all. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for rocking with me. 70 people still after an hour is a big deal. So thank you guys so much. If you just became a member, Black Nuance, thank you so much. Also, if you didn't become a member, consider becoming a member. Some of these streams will be members only chats, so you can participate. Check out the Patreon if you haven't already. We have a shit ton of content on the Patreon, on the YouTube. Most of the content is on the YouTube. So please check that out. Multiple series. I probably don't have to make another video because there's so much stuff there. But thank you guys for tuning in. And yeah, hopefully I gave you guys some food for thought. Appreciate y'all as always. Peace.